in part because of his ties to the old regime. For us, the problem with Iraq is seeing the larger picture. That is always the danger of daily journalism. You get so caught up in each day's event that you never see the big picture. Our senior Pentagon correspondent went looking for the big picture today at the daily briefing of all places. Here's CNN's Jamie McIntyre.
While many military experts may believe the attacks against U.S. forces in Iraq fit the textbook definition of guerrilla war, Donald Rumsfeld does not.
Appreciating, as I do, your appreciation of precision in language.
You got the dictionary definition?
I was
afraid you would have. I should have looked it up. I knew I should have looked it up. I could die that I didn't look it up.
Paramilitary operations conducted in enemy-held or hostile territory by irregular, predominantly indigenous forces. This seems to fit a lot of what's going on.
It really doesn't.
The problem with conceding the U.S. may be locked in guerrilla warfare is that it raises the specter of Vietnam. In fact, a cartoon on that point hangs on Rumsfeld's wall.
There are so many cartoons where press people are saying, is it Vietnam yet? Hoping it is, and wondering if it is. And it isn't. It's a different time. It's a different era. It's a different place.
And any comparison to Vietnam brings up the Q word.
Quagmire. What happened in Eastern Europe? Were they in a quagmire when the Berlin Wall fell down and they started struggling and working their way towards democracy?
The criticism would be that you're in a situation from which there's no good way to extricate yourself. And
then the word clearly would not be a good one.
The U.S. insists it does have an exit strategy, and part of its plan is to aggressively target the enemies of the United States until it roots them out. At the same time, the U.S. is soliciting contributions from other countries to help relieve the burden on U.S. forces. But as of today, the U.S. has consulted with more than 50 countries and only come up with pledges for about 8,000 troops. And they're not scheduled to arrive until the end of the summer. Aaron?
First of all, nice work looking up the Pentagon's definition today, okay? We'll set Quagmire aside and set Vietnam aside and focus on guerrilla war. Because by what measure does the Secretary say what's happening in Iraq does not fit the description that you read to him today?
Well, he would argue that there are a lot of things going on. He named about 5 different dynamics, including looting and street crime and other things going on that don't fit the classic definition of guerrilla warfare. And he would say that what we're looking at is what military experts tell us is classic guerrilla warfare fits more of a definition of a terrorist attack. Well, it may be a semantic debate, but the fact is many in the military who are in this building now and many who've retired say that when they look at what's going on with these attacks on U.S. soldiers, that it's the classic definition of guerrilla warfare. And
the Secretary's sensitivity to that is what?
Well, as I suggested in the piece I did tonight, I think that if you accept it as guerrilla warfare, that brings up images of Vietnam, and Vietnam brings up images of a quagmire, and that's not the image that they want to project. I think that the Pentagon would argue that the big difference here is that there is a way to get out of this, and the big difference between Vietnam is that the U.S. during Vietnam wasn't willing to commit everything it would take to prevail in that conflict, and the Pentagon continues to say whatever it takes, however long it takes, however many troops the U.S. has to send, it's going to do that to make sure it has a successful conclusion, however long that takes.
Well, I hope we don't get to that point. Jamie, thank you. Our senior Pentagon correspondent, Jamie McIntyre, in exchange with the Defense Secretary today next to another shaky neighborhood.